So normally, every single legitimate crypto explainer we do right here leads with a detailed white paper. We sit down, read the source documents, analyze the actual mechanics, and tell you straight up whether the claims hold water. But this explainer, it's completely different. Because BitConnect never published one. No technical document, literally nothing.
Where on earth is the white paper? I mean, that's the central mystery of today's explainer, right? And honestly, it's the single biggest red flag that investors just totally ignored. We aren't doing our usual technical deep dive today for one simple reason. There is literally no technology to dive into. Instead, we're going to investigate exactly why that missing document mattered so much and what exactly filled the massive void it left behind.
All right, let's start with what BitConnect actually promised people. At the very core of their whole pitch was this thing they called the lending program. So according to the SEC complaint, here's how it worked. You, the investor, would deposit your Bitcoin, exchange it for their native token, BitConnect coin or BCC, and then you'd lock those funds up on their platform for a set period of time. And in return for locking up your crypto, BitConnect promised you guaranteed returns. And guys, the numbers they were advertising were just absolutely absurd. They claimed investors could earn up to 40% a month. Let that sink in. 40% every single month. There's just no way. So without a white paper, what was the technical explanation for these completely impossible returns? Well, they claimed to have a proprietary volatility software trading bot. Yeah, that's a mouthful. BitConnect told the public that this magical bot would take investor deposits and reliably outperform literally every hedge fund and trading desk on the entire planet, simply by trading the daily volatility of Bitcoin. Now let's compare this to reality for a second. Legitimate projects, think Bitcoin or Ethereum, they introduce themselves to the world with detailed, highly verifiable technical documents. They explain their mechanics out in the open. BitConnect, they gave investors zero documentation, just pure buzzword marketing. There was no code to look at, absolutely no open peer review, and zero technical explanation of how this supposed miracle trading strategy actually functioned.
And that total lack of a technical explanation? It was visible from day one to anybody who actually bothered to look for it. The absence of that document wasn't just some minor oversight or a simple mistake. The void itself was the tell. To this day, it remains one of the absolute clearest red flags in all of crypto history.
Because instead of building actual technology, BitConnect built a massive multi-level marketing machine. The SEC complaint lays out this alleged 7-tier referral structure. Basically, sponsors got a sweet 7% commission just for bringing in a brand new investor, plus these cascading percentages for anybody their recruits brought in down the line. It's a structure that aggressively incentivized one thing: recruitment over actual software development. So what was actually happening to all that money? Well, according to the SEC, the founder, Satish Kumbhani, wasn't deploying investor funds to some genius volatility trading bot. Not at all. Instead, he was allegedly just siphoning those funds straight into digital wallets controlled by himself and his top promoters. The SEC complaint outlines what is essentially a classic Ponzi structure operating right at the heart of the whole scheme. Because there was no trading bot generating any real profits, BitConnect allegedly paid out fabricated returns to the earlier investors using the fresh money that was being deposited by all the newer investors. And to keep that new money flowing in, BitConnect relied heavily on a massive global promoter network. The lead U.S. promoter was a guy named Glenn Arcaro. He and his team pushed these wildly aggressive recruitment campaigns all over YouTube and social media. And according to the SEC, this whole recruitment engine was fueled by massive concealed commissions, which they conveniently dubbed development funds, that BitConnect deliberately hid from the public. But look, you can only pay old investors with new money for so long before the music stops. By late 2017, regulatory pressure was really starting to mount. The UK issued a strike-off notice. Then, by early January 2018, securities regulators in Texas and North Carolina hit BitConnect with straight-up cease-and-desist orders. And just days later, on January 16th, the platform abruptly completely shut down its exchange and lending operations. The immediate aftermath of that shutdown was absolutely devastating. With the lending platform totally locked up and market confidence completely destroyed, the value of BitConnect coin collapsed by 92%, almost instantly. And the scale of the damage here was just staggering. The SEC alleged that a worldwide network of everyday retail investors was defrauded out of up to $2.4 billion. That's billions of dollars, with a B, just vanished into a shady network of digital wallets. Which brings us to the legal reckoning for the people who actually orchestrated all of this.
When we look at the two main figures involved here, Glenn Arcaro and Satish Kumbhani, we see two vastly different outcomes. So, for Glenn Arcaro, the facts are fully settled. He pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He was sentenced to 38 months in federal prison, and a judge ordered him to pay $17 million in restitution to the victims of the scheme. That part is a done deal.
But contrast that with the founder, Satish Kumbhani. The DOJ indicted Kumbhani separately on a bunch of federal charges, including money laundering and fraud. However, he has not faced a judge. To this day, his whereabouts remain completely unknown.
The lesson here is incredibly straightforward. The absence of a white paper wasn't just some minor oversight. It was the absolute tell. Legitimate projects explain themselves. Frauds? Well, frauds rely on people not asking how the magic actually works. You see, in the crypto ecosystem, technical jargon is frequently weaponized against retail investors. Promoters throw around complex buzzwords to create an illusion of sophistication, hoping that you're going to feel way too intimidated to ask for the actual math. But listen, if a protocol cannot provide a verifiable blueprint of its mechanics, the magic simply isn't real.
And this establishes a very clear pattern that you can apply to literally any project out there. The more confidently a platform promises guaranteed, outsized returns with absolutely zero technical explanation of how they actually achieve them, the more scrutiny that project deserves, not less. In this space, complexity is so often used as a shield. But genuine innovation is transparent. If a protocol claims to have solved a massive financial hurdle but utterly refuses to show you the underlying code, they haven't solved it. They are simply monetizing your assumption that somebody else already checked the math for you.
Because real due diligence starts with reading the actual documents a project provides, or maybe even more importantly, noticing when they absolutely refuse to provide any at all. Head over to www.calcrypto.com for more of our document-led analysis, where we always separate the hype from the hardware. Stay analytical and stay skeptical out there, because if the multi-billion-dollar void of BitConnect taught us anything, it's this: what invisible red flags are hiding in the portfolios you hold right now?